Hello and welcome to the Silent Evil Podcast. I'm Special Scott Holmes.
I am Cameron.
We're coming at you with the latest game we decided to go with, and we went with a Fatal Frame one. I got Fatal Frame right here, Maiden of Black Water, which is technically Fatal Frame 5. Initially came out on the Wii U, and then they put it out on everything else much later on and so on. And when I think of Fatal Frame, to me, that's kind of the next biggest survival horror series past, Silent Hill and Resident Evil. Like, Fatal Frame seems like it's the third largest one. I can't really think of anything else that would compete with that. Yeah. Alone in the Dark, you could kind of say, but Alone in the Dark sort of has its moment of being like, one of the first ones out the door, and then it has some games sprinkled in throughout time, but I don't feel like it's nearly as strong as Fatal Frame kind of always was. Like, Fatal Frame rode that same path, right, side by side, Resident Evil and Silent Hill, especially like it was real strong in that PS2 era.
Yes, and that's where I know the series the most. Fatal Frame to me is like, when I think back on like scariest games I've ever played, Fatal Frame 2, 100%. I'll never forget being like, God, we must have been, 12, 13 years old, Saturday night, it's 2 a.m., like you're playing up in Todd's old barn and whatnot, and like literally a barn, and like had the old CRT TV. And I just remember just being terrified of just these silly ghosts coming at you, like, and you're taking pictures of them and stuff. But yeah, there's something about Fatal Frame that just like really, really got under my skin back then. And like, I think I've identified it. I literally think it was the film, The Grudge, whenever that film came out or whatever, and multiple other like examples of like Japanese horror. Like this game in particular, like there is some like legitimately like scary stuff in this game, and it's like, and it's goofy and it's weird and it's like things like that. But like, dude, there's like legitimate parts of this game where you're looking down the camera obscura, and like the ghost is like right there, and just,
Yeah, all of a sudden comes at you. Well, I remember when Fatal Frame 1 first came out, I remember me and RJ were reading about it. RJ as in the old Silent Evil and Old Man Orange podcast for anybody else listening out there. But we were like, okay, look, we're going to go check this bad boy out, because we also heard that it had that thing that it was based on a true story. I don't know how much of that's actually true, because I learned later on in life you could just put that on something, and it doesn't mean you have to like have evidence to back it up.
Yeah, yep.
Which is always like the goofiest thing, like talk about, yeah. But it was based on a true story, so it's like that gave it extra scare factors. And the fact that it was just something different, it wasn't like Silent Hill, it wasn't like Resident Evil or Alone in the Dark. You were literally dealing with ghosts, which I can't think of a game beforehand that's, that really dealt with that kind of, enemy system or whatnot. I know there's ghosts in like NES games and so on like that.
Right.
Not the same way that Fatal Frame was, and the fact that you are looking down a camera. There's something weird about like when you look down. It's like, okay, not only you kind of look in the game screen, of course, you're looking at your TV, but when you have the camera to look through too, it gives you this weird, like almost like you're kind of, I don't know, it's the different perspective that puts in this extra fear factor in there.
It's claustrophobic. It's just very,
maybe that's what it is.
Like it's just
because I even remember when we were playing Silent Hill Shattered Memories, and you could pull out the cell phone in there. Yep. It was like, it got real scary all of a sudden, and like when you have that going, you're like, what am I going to run into? Granted, that game didn't have anything you ran into, so after a while you kind of realize that wasn't an issue.
Yeah, exactly.
You were just going to come across these ghost memories, that were going to give you voicemails or something like that.
Right. Got your voicemails. No, dude. Yeah, because like imagine too, because like I mean, so we're playing on like the updated re-release version. You played on Switch, I played on Steam, whatever.
Well, because I'll even say this before we like. When that game, I was really excited when that game was coming out for Wii U back in the day, because I had a Wii U, so I could enjoy all like the fruits of its labors and so on. But then I remember they did the thing where they're like, well, in the US, it's not going to have a physical edition.
Right.
And I was just like, dude, the Wii U's got like a 32 gig like hard drive on it, and that's the Pro model. Like it's an 8 gig if you have the base model. Right. And so it was like one of those ones like you can't just release a game like a big game like that digital only. It's like it's gonna take my whole hard drive. So like I downloaded the demo and played that, and got to kind of experience it there. But then I was holding out for the physical one. I'm like, they're going to put a physical one out.
Yeah.
You know what? They're not just going to leave us hanging high and dry. And lo and behold, they left us high and dry.
Yeah.
Which is so weird because that game was initially, not only was it like a Tecmo game, but it was also a half Nintendo game at that point too. So I'm surprised Nintendo didn't put a little bit more leeway into, putting it out to making it like, hey, here's kind of like a new game that can be kind of almost like your Resident Evil, sort of like in the GameCube era when you had the exclusives to the remake and 0 and 4 before that went away to PS2 and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
Almost just Jason back to just dancing like.
What are you doing?
No shirt on, just like party dancing back there.
He's a party dad in training. There it is. No, I love this because I'm going to see this in 20 years and be like, yep.
There he is. Just walking around like he's Brad Pitt in Fight Club.
Yeah. Well, he's sick right now. The kid's got a fever. I can't believe he's up and around, walking around and whatnot. Like he's been sick all day. But anyways, yeah. But no, dude, like, so this game, like talking about, like you were just saying, like that cramped, like, enclosed feeling of like being through the camera obscura, looking at it that way. I can only imagine, dude, like you're sitting there playing on your Wii U and then it like has you pull up the screen. So like, it's like a triple thing. It's like you're playing a game, but you're looking through a physical device that's looking through a camera, it's like, and you're like moving it around. Like, dude, that would probably trip me out.
Well, that was the thing that's what makes that version in some ways kind of superior is just the controls. I mean, granted, on the version we played, yes, it's like you got a little higher resolution, higher frame rate. I think they add a little bit of extra stuff there too. So you're getting the better, gameplay wise for that. But controller, it was made for the Wii U. And the fact that, like, yeah, you pulled it up, and I remember you could move it around, because in the demo they only gave you like the first couple levels, but it was enough just to test all those features out and so on like that. So you had that, and then when you were just normally running around, you had the map right down there,
right? Which
I thought about in this one because I don't know how many times I would press that start button,
Yep.
And it's something such to be said about having the dual screens, I remember it was the first time on like DS when they put the Castlevania games on there, and you had your map always up, and I was just like, I probably clicked that thing like 10,000 times in Symphony of the Night, back, forth, back, forth, back, forth. And the fact that I can just start walking and look down, keep walking, and it's like one of the best features. It's something that on the Switch, I was always bummed that they never, I think they should have made a third mode. Because, you have handheld mode, you have docked mode. They literally should have made a mode that was like the Wii U where you can undock your Switch, but the game's still on the screen. You got to be like in a 30-foot range to your like whatever hub. Right. Yeah. But then you have the double screen action. I know that might be kind of complicated, but I felt like that was such a lost opportunity when Nintendo pulled that feature out.
Yeah.
Because for example, this game would have been great with that.
Yeah, I mean, because I was thinking about that too, but more in the sense of like, because Resident Evil Revelations exists on 3DS, like why, like this game totally, like as a portable game would be super cool. And speaking of portable, like a portion of my playthrough on this was on the Steam Deck. So like I kind of got like the Switch experience more or less, and it is cool. Like it's super rad, to have that. But yeah, I was thinking about the 3DS like the whole time I was playing that game. I'm just like, man, this game would be sweet on there exactly for that. Like having your map and having your notes and stuff that you can scroll through and whatever.
And the 3DS has the gyro technology in it too. Because that was like the original controller to have that gyro in there was the 3DS.
Right.
And nobody thinks of it like that, but you would have that. You could take pictures, and it has the camera and all that stuff. You could even literally have a little bit of like that, because they were using a bit of that AR stuff on the 3DS that never really went anywhere, but it was there for a brief moment. Yeah, there's a lot of those kind of things that would have been kind of neat. I will say on the Switch version I was using, I only played it docked, but I did have it where I had the gyro controller, so you could just have that little bit of aiming on there, which was kind of nice, because then it's like, and they actually did it right. They didn't do it like Resident Evil where like it kind of jacks up the controls if you put the gyro thing on there. Like you only get, I think it's on Resident Evil, you only get inverted on one thing for overall. So it's either inverted joysticks, which that's what I need, but then it makes the gyro controls inverted, which is and then vice versa. You can't do this. This game actually, you could have the controls could be inverted, and you could still have the gyro controls normal. So they thought this one through.
Nice.
Somebody actually play tested it.
Yeah. we had the 40-year-old on staff that gave it a shot.
I know, that's the one thing. I think too many times that one of the QA guys needs to be over a certain age range. Always.
Yep, 100%. Yeah, and you know this game in particular. So I bought this game years ago on Steam. You know, like whenever.
That's the same way I did. I bought this on Switch, and I had to order this thing from Japan. They didn't even sell in this one in the U.S. either.
That's crazy. That's
and I was
crazy.
like, I bought this, and I bought Dead or Alive Beach Volleyball 3 at the same time.
Yeah.
Like, I need to order these Tecmo games.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, because like I remember seeing this, you know, like on sale on Steam one day, and I was like, "Holy shit!" Like Fatal Frame's actually on PC. That's nuts, you know, because it's only ever existed on console. And so I bought it, and then like day one, like within the first like 2 weeks, really, before they threw out these hot fixes or whatever. And like I have a video on my YouTube channel that I shared with you or whatever. But like day one of this game, they didn't think about PC performance and things like that. So like. And there's no frame rate lock. There's literally nothing. It's just an open platform. It's just the computer will run as fast as it wants. And very unfortunately, the game speed is tied to the frame rate. So like I'm recording at like 300 some odd frames a second, and my character's just, you know, just so fast, you know. So ultimately, it ruined my experience initially for this game. I was like, well, that's kind of crappy, you know. Like, and then the hotfix came out, and then I played like an hour or so of it, and then I dropped it, and I never thought about it again until, you know, started up this podcast with you, and then we started talking games. I'm like, oh yeah, I have Fatal Frame. Like, we should totally do that.
And I said the same thing too. Is I'm like, I have it too. I bought it on Switch, and then I kind of started it up and just never really fully got, you know, into it. I'm like, I'll come back to this, and then lo and behold, didn't until now.
Yeah. Yep. And it was a good choice in my opinion. Just in general, I think this is a really cool game. I think it's pretty fun. Story can be like a bit, all over the place and whatnot, you know. But like in general, I had a really, really good time with this one. So I'm looking forward to talking about it.
That's what I thought too. Is I overall really enjoyed this. I think it's just, once again, Fatal Frame is just something different. And I truly really hadn't played Fatal Frame since about the first. I want to say I played a little bit of the second one, but the first one was mainly where I really did. And I never got around to playing number 3, which apparently 3 ties into this game a little bit. And then 4 came out on the Wii, and that was another one that was landlocked to Japan, which had Suda 51 on it too, which that made me really excited. But of course, for some reason, we didn't get that one. I don't know why. There was kind of like a point where these games were being kind of hard to sell for some reason to the U.S. Because I think when the Wii U one came out, people put in like a lot of effort to get that game just even to the U.S. And, you know, of course, it didn't get their physical, but like it got their digital. But like I think they had to go through a lot of effort to do that. Like they weren't going to do that at first. It was just going to be a Japanese only game.
Yep. And yeah, because the other one is, you know, the fourth game is also on Steam. So like I would love to cover that at some point, you know, in the future. But really, I think like where a lot of this centered into is like, all right, we just finished the Evil Within, you know, 1 and 2 or whatever. What's coming out this year? Resident Evil 9, Fatal Frame 2 remake. And we're just like, well, gotta put a Fatal Frame in. We've both never played this game before. Let's go for it, you know. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. So
yeah, you know, in starting this game up and everything like that, first you're kind of just, you know, you're loaded with like, you know, they're trying to get the controls across, which I really picture it being like on the Wii U, you were kind of showing off all the features at this point here. Like when you're playing it like nowadays, you're like, why are they trying to tell me all this stuff? Like you know, but I know what it was. Like on the Wii U, you were showing off, oh, you got the gyro controls, you got the dual screens, you got all that, you know, it was something literally brand new. So they kind of had to explain it kind of well. But on here, you kind of have that first chapter where like you stop like every like 20 seconds to learn a new feature on your camera. And you're like, you know, But as you kind of go on, you know, whatever, it teaches you that and so on. And then you kind of get to this point that everybody's kind of going up to, what was that mountain called? Mount Hikami or whatnot. Hikami's the centerpiece of this place that we keep going to. We leave our antique shop that for some reason Ren and these 3 girls all live together. And this is some Tenchi Muyo shit going on here.
Right.
And Ren's like totally focused on his job. Like he would not even notice if any of these girls were even paying any attention to him. He's so focused on being whatever, a novelist. He's going to write a story about this. And Mount Hikami is this place where everybody went up to commit suicide, kind of like that Japanese, that real life suicide force that they have in Japan and whatnot. And I also I read somewhere that Nintendo was the one that said like, why don't you use the suicide forest as like a theme? I love how Nintendo comes and be like, you know,
Okay,
we're gonna give you the most mature rated like idea.
well, that's why, because like there's really not, when you think of the Nintendo landscape, there's really not a ton of, like that. It's changed more recently with third party and whatnot, but mature games, like Resident Evil being aside, this being aside or whatever, like I don't, when I think of Nintendo, I think Mario, I think e-games, I think, Bowser and, Mario Party and things like that. So for this game to exist on, specifically designed for the Wii U back in 2013 or 14, whenever this came out, was crazy to me, so, but yeah, to have this centered around the suicide forest of, Mountain Hikami or whatever, and playing is, so there's basically like three characters that we really play as, it's Yuri, which is the cover character, like the chick on the cover.
Yeah, she's kind of your main character, if anything.
Yep. Ren is this dude that Spence is just talking about, the novelist, the journalist, the whatever, like he's going to try to figure out the mysteries of the mountain, more or less. And then you got Miyu, and Miyu is a really interesting character because she's so quiet for most of the game, and like all her revelations like happen like right at the end, and it's like, oh, that's who that person is. Oh, that's how this ties back into the series, and blah blah, and we'll get there. But but Yuri in general, like I thought was a really interesting character, because she as well is super quiet. She doesn't say a whole lot throughout this experience, again, until like the final-ish chapters. That's where everything kind of unveils itself. But yeah, so we're tasked to go find a girl up on the mountain, like, so Yuri's like little side investigation hustle company that she runs or whatever, like needs to go up to the mountain and go find this little girl. And then we go, and like I don't remember chapter 1 too insanely well, because this game
it was chapter 1 the one where you play as Miyu. Is that the one where you play as her like right off the bat?
No,
if I remember correctly. Because I thought you played as her, and then she kind of got like locked away up there, and then you don't see her for like another like 7 chapters or something like that.
That might be true. I don't recall the start of this game, because its first like 6 chapters or so are just like kind of fragmented, like the way that they're presented.
Well, this game plays almost like oddly like almost like a roguelike game where you make different runs to the mountain.
Yeah,
and then you come back, and like you always keep coming back, and then like the next chapter is like, go run up there again, and it unlocks a little bit more of a path and a little bit more. And then when you start getting towards the end, it's like you realize that all these things are interconnected. Yeah. So this whole mountain thing, it's not like you're going to different levels. You're just going to one wide open area that has branching paths that literally come back together, kind of like how Chronos did. Has that one where you're like, oh, that door went to there? Oh, that's interesting.
Right, yeah. And I love that moment too, like when all those pieces, so this is very much like this exists in like the Souls franchise, for example, when I talk interconnected worlds and whatnot, because like you can go down a path in Dark Souls for 45 minutes to an hour real time, just running down this particular pathway or whatever, and then all of a sudden like you'll pop back into an area that you recognize, like, oh, that's the bridge at the start of the game, like, and then the mental map starts to happen where it's like, oh, that's how that connects, and oh, this is how this connects, and blah blah blah. I had that moment in this game towards the end of the game, when the map like kind of fully opens up and you're like you have Mount Hikami to go explore, more or less, and I knew that at this bush take a right, at this thing take a left, like I didn't have to use Yuri's like so the quality of this character is that she can kind of like see. Everybody can see ghosts in this game, but like she's got this ability to like have this like crazy sense thing where she like snips a piece of paper, more or less, and just goes like, oh, that's where that person went, and I'm gonna follow the trail and whatnot, like it's just basically like she's following shadows, basically.
Which I will say is a nice feature, though. If you get kind of to, like, crossroads, you just hold R2 down, and then it's like, oh, the ghost walked that way. Cool. It kind of reminds me of, like, Dead Space when you do, like, the thing where you press, like, R3 or whatever, and he does, like, he does, like, the nut flex, and then all of a sudden the beam comes shooting out. I don't know why he always does the flex like that. Yeah!
He's Isaac Clarke, dude. I mean, come on.
And those are those things. I know some people don't like that kind. I'm like, no, that's fine and dandy. Like, I don't mind, like, being able to point my direction when you get kind of turned around. Granted, now if there's ghosts out, that you can't use that feature, so then you just gotta go with your best instincts if you're running away.
Yep. this game as well. So like now that we're kind of like into Mount Hikami and whatnot, you know, and starting to explore, trying to find this person, a lot of the mechanics of this game, I thought it was super interesting. So like playing with headphones, walking through the forest and whatnot, you hear the whisper over here and the whisper over here and the, you know, like the weird noises, you know, that are going on, spooky forest, you know, whatever. But when you go into the camera obscura mode and like you're looking around or whatever through that lens or whatever, like those noises are like getting louder as you're like panning around, you know, like you're, you know, and like quieter as you're moving away and whatnot. When I said at the start of the episode, like, you know, there's actual pieces of this that like legitimately scare me. That's part of it. The sound design of this game is so good. Like it's insanely good. I loved, you know, just those random moments of like, you know, you're hearing the whisper over here, you're hearing the whisper over there or whatever. And there was like multiple times like where I hear a whisper to my right and I like start to turn or whatever. And like, as I'm turning around, you know, a ghost face just like pops up in the frame and it's like literally right in front of me or whatever. And it's like, oh shit, now I'm in combat, you know, like start taking pictures and stuff, you know?
Yeah, there is that thing where you are kind of just spinning around in the camera and everything like that, and you know, looking for these ghosts, and they kind of pop up and so on like that. And sometimes they can just pop up out of the blue. Sometimes you get to the point where like they start, when the ghosts start like wanting to run around a little too much, you're like, no, you get back here so I can kill you.
Yep.
Don't you dare be going running around and getting stuck in a bookcase or something like
exactly.
that.
Yep. Yeah, and like combat's not hard at all. I mean, granted, like I played on easy, you know, like the second to lesser difficulty or whatever.
You know, I actually played it in that normal mode because I was just like, I'm just gonna rock this normal mode and see what happens, because I realized right off the bat that like, oh, if anything, if it does get kind of tough, I can always knock back down the difficulty.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of stayed at that and just was like, I'm just gonna see how far I can go. And it really wasn't until like, I don't know, chapter 9 or 10, because there's a point where the difficulty just ramps up really quickly. You know, because at first it's like, oh, this is not a problem. I'm just like taking these ghosts out left and right and so on like that.
Yep.
Really what makes the game hard is when they put like 3 ghosts in the room together, and it's like a tight room. Because the only kind of downfall of this game, and this is one of the kind of issues I have, is that the turning radius on like everything from just your character turning to like the camera turning, it's not fast enough sometimes, you know. And when you kind of are like hunting down these ghosts, the game wasn't really made to be like, if a ghost is over here and a ghost over here and a ghost is behind you, you're limited to that, you know. Your best bet is to back yourself up in the corner and just start firing away.
Yeah, and that's more or less like how I operated majority of the game too. Like in the open spaces, in Mount Hikami and all that, like you have so much room to just move around. Like ghosts aren't, I mean, as long as you're moving, like they're not going to get you. Like, I mean, with the exception of a couple, and again, this is like scare mechanics that like got under my skin. It's like, it's just they're staring at you, and then all of a sudden, bam, they just like lunge at you like real quick or whatever. And it's like those gut reaction, quick moments that are just like, you know, like I don't like that, you know. That paired with the sound design, the creepy face movements and stuff, like it's just they did a really good job at all that. Yeah, in general, like combat really is fun. I think it's a lot of fun, because this game. And this is all in post research, so like I don't really have the context of the other games outside of 2, and even then like 2's so old that I really don't remember it that well.
Yeah, that's the same way I feel about 1. I remember playing it and so on like that, but I couldn't tell you if that game was heavier on the combat or lighter on the combat than this one here or any of that.
But according to the internet, anyways, and things that I was looking at, like this game like has like really unique systems to Fatal Frame in being like. You know, so like when you're looking down through the camera obscura or whatever, and you like lock onto a ghost face, you know, and you snap that picture. What's happening in the game is like you're in the lore of the game is like you're stealing their soul, more or less. You're breaking apart their soul by taking pictures of them or whatever. And physically in the actual game, you know, like pieces of these ghosts are like breaking off or whatever. And you have these like little ghost orbs that are, you know, floating around. And you have to orientate the camera, you know, to get the most amount of ghost orbs into the same shot. Ultimately, you're looking for 5 orbs plus the ghost or whatever, 4 orbs plus the ghost to get a fatal frame, you know, to do max damage or whatever. But that paired with, as frustrating as some of the close encounter, the really tight room with the 3 ghosts or the 4 ghosts or whatever, like as tough as that can be, exactly what you're saying. If you put the camera down, just run to the end of the room real quick, flip around, turn around. As long as you can get all those ghosts in that same frame, like you're doing fatal frame, you know, like, and you're just pumping out the damage, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
So shit like that can be a lot of fun.
No, the combat itself is very cool. And then even, like, you know, if the ghosts go to grab you, you have a pretty good dodge feature that works pretty legitimately in this game. You know, there's some games where, like, you have a dodge feature and it works, you know, maybe like a quarter of the time or something, like, if you're lucky. This one's, like, I was pretty good at, like, getting the dodge mostly, you know. It's almost like a ghost really has to kind of surprise you to get a good hold on you. But then it's not really the worst case if a ghost grabs you, because then you can just start unloading the camera on their face and you do a lot more damage that way. So I was like, whatever, I took a little bit of damage, but I did even more damage to that ghost. So it's not the end of the world if a ghost grabs you. Where like in other video games when you get grabbed, it's like no. It's almost like it's not that bad in this. The one thing that's really bad is if they poison you or whatever. That thing was like, dude, that your health just starts draining this super hard and so on like that.
And that literally only happened to me once. So what Spence is talking about is like you can get tainted by the black water or whatever, you know, like if you're. And I don't even know really what triggered it because it only happened once in my whole campaign, you know.
Well, because at first I was thinking there was the black orbs that would fly by, but it wasn't those because I did get touched by those and they didn't poison me. It's just certain enemies will do it, and I probably got poisoned like maybe only like 3 times or something like that. But it was enough that it was like, oh, this is not good. yeah,
because like I didn't know what to do in the moment, you know, because like I see like your character just is covered in this like black misty looking shit, and your health starts draining and whatnot, you know. Thinking about it retrospectively now, it's just like, oh, we have those divine, you know, drink things or whatever, you know, that probably cleanses it or whatever, you know, like it's an item in the game.
Yeah,
but in the moment.
Yeah, you can't. Well, you have to do one of 2 things. You either have to kill all the ghosts in the room, you know, but your health is draining so fast that that's not really the best option. You got to use those embers to dry yourself off because there's another mechanic we haven't talked about yet because the divine water will not do it. I'll tell you that. So you got to use those embers, which I remember for the longest time I was like, the embers like, what? My character gets wet, big whoop. You know what I mean? Yeah. I kind of had to look that up, but they have this feature in here that because it's always raining in the game and Maiden of Black Water and all this kind of stuff, so they have this. Your characters can get kind of wet. And when you get wet,
kind of wet.
Yeah. Oh, when you get the wet, you know, everybody has a wet T-shirt contest.
I was looking over my shoulder this whole time I'm playing this game, but waiting for my wife to walk in and go like, "What is this?" Anyway,
yeah, I mean, it wasn't I had the swimsuit outfit on. I don't know. It just was there. I don't know why. This is how the game started.
No. Yes, I had to spend points. Yes, I had to confirm. But come on.
Yes, it made me not be able to upgrade my camera because of this.
Yeah.
So they got that, which just seems like kind of like a gimmicky feature for that sort of sense, you know, from the creators of Dead or Alive. But
what that wetness feature does or whatever, like. Physically in the real world, your character just literally gets wet, you know, and like, but what I think they're trying to do is like, it's kind of a spin on like a, what kind of system I'm trying, like a psyche system or something like that, you know, like where like your sanity system.
Yeah.
What I'm after. It's like your sanity drains, you know, when you get more and more wet. But I really didn't see the repercussions of it because I played full levels, just wet as shit, you know. I played full level.
Well, sometimes it's raining outside. Like, what are you gonna do?
Like, what do you know? Just keep popping those things over and over.
I looked it up because it was like just like a couple of missions in there. I was just like, I want to know, what does this wet thing mean? I know that there probably was a file that explained this, and I kind of went, yeah, sure, okay, whatever, get wet. But what it does is, so when you're wet. So when you're dry, there's less ghost, less of we'll get into this thing in a second too, where the ghost can grab you when you go to get an item. So you get less of these things, but the upside is when you're wet, you do more damage. So it's almost kind of worth it to be wet. The worst case is you're going to have a little bit more ghosts appear on you. Really? But beyond that, you're doing more damage. So it's one of those ones that's not really bad which way or the other.
Yeah. That's interesting. I had no idea that it boosted damage. That's crazy, because especially for some of the upgrades that you can do with the camera obscura too, you know, like I put all my points into damage like right off the bat, you know, and then shutter speed and then blah blah
yeah
blah.
Oddly, this is one of the games where I put it into the shutter speed was the first thing I went for, because I felt like that was the most important thing, because it took forever for like some of those films to reload. And it's like, this is one of those few games where mostly like reload in a game is always like one's like, I'll come to that once I've got everything else. Like, that's not that big of a deal. And this is one of the few games where I felt like, no, the reload was actually almost the most important thing. You know?
Yeah, and I'd like to touch on this camera obscura thing real quick too. So like, obviously it's a camera that you use to damage ghosts, steal their souls, blah blah blah. But like the core mechanics of like what exists here, because I loved having the different film types. So as you're exploring the world and whatnot, like you're seeing items on the ground all over the place. You know, just like little twinkle stars. You know, you walk up and you touch them. Which we'll get into the next mechanic surrounding that, but the fact that there are so many different film types and they all do different things, you know, like some will, you know, it depending on like how fast they reload, how much damage they actually do, you know, are they in, you know, like type 14 versus type 90, you know, like type 14 is like a shit film, you know, but it goes really fast and whatnot, and it's in abundance. You can get a shitload of it, you know, versus 90, you know, type 90 film, which is slightly slower reload speed, does a hell of a lot of damage, but it's not so abundant. You don't find a ton of it, you know.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, you have like type 7, you know, which is like basically your infinite ammo version, you know. You just have infinite amount of that.
Yeah, well, I would like to, I refer to them like the weapons in Resident Evil, like, so that number 7, that was like using the knife,
right?
You know, and then as you kind of go up, you got the handgun, you got the shotgun, you got the Magnum, which I consider like the 90.
Yep. And then the type 0, dude, were you using the type 0 stuff at all?
I used it like a couple times because you only got like so many of those. That was almost like having the rocket launcher. It felt like.
Yeah, exactly. It's the power weapon of the game, you know, and like I use that on. I saved those films back for most of the boss fights and used them on the boss fights and whatnot, and it felt badass to like snap a fatal frame with like the big dick, you know, fucking film, you know, type, and like kill the boss, you know, like it just feels good, you know. But on top of that, like there's also a system in play with the camera obscura of lenses, and the lenses do different things, and you can attach 3 of them at a time, you know, like to the camera obscura, and you can flip through them. So like one version will, like, as you're taking pictures of ghosts, you're outputting damage to them, but you're also like absorbing their shit and like healing yourself and whatnot, which is badass. That's really cool. It's a really cool feature. Double the damage output with the critical frame, you know, like a critical lens or whatever, you know, and like there's so many different versions of it.
Yeah, there's like a stun one. I think there's a freeze one. So many of them I never even got around to trying, just because I felt like I kind of was like, I was using the heal one for a while, and then I kind of went to the double damage one. I was like, the double damage one was kind of the way was where it was at.
Yeah. And I think that's also a quality of this game that I'm really mixed on, and it could 100% be based off the difficulty that I played at. I never felt like I was losing any items. I had so many healing items. I had so many films. I had so like all the shit that exists in this game. Like I just had an overabundance of all of it, you know. And even getting towards the latter half of the game, like where combat like just increases out the goddamn roof, and like, you know, things start getting like actually difficult, you know, to an extent, you know, like relatively speaking. I never ran out of health items. I would run out of film, like that would happen, you know, like my Type 90 film, like, yeah, I'd run out of that shit constantly. But you would finish a chapter, and then like you're back in the main menu again, selecting your next chapter, and it's just like, screw it, I'm just gonna go buy 99 more of the Type 90 film, you know, for 60,000 points, because for some reason you're getting hundreds of thousands of points per level, you know, that you're playing. It's like, Jesus, you know? So I don't know.
I mean, granted, the camera upgrades were kind of a little bit more pricey. That was where like a lot of the stuff, like, kind of, you know, you needed those points for. But I'll say this, even on normal, like, I was not having that much of an issue. It wasn't until like that, whatever it happened, chapter 9 or 10, where like I remember it was like playing as Ren, and it was like the difficulty just was like, oh wow, this actually went up real far. And I remember because I went through like half my basic, you know, health items, and I was like, oh whoa, it's getting dangerous here all of a sudden. But then after that part, it wasn't really that big of a deal. That was just like the only time where I just got kind of caught in a couple areas where like the ghost just kept hitting you over and over, and you're like, oh wait a second, you know. And I think it was just like those fire ghosts and stuff like that too, that just kind of, they attack you different than like the normal ghost. But beyond that though, it still wasn't that big of a deal, you know. And this game also has that kind of feature where there's some ghosts you have to fight, but there's a lot of ghosts you can just run past if you don't want to. But the upside to fighting the ghosts is you get the points. It's almost like that Resident Evil 5 thing where like, well, you want the money,
Yeah, no,
but if you don't feel like it, just run away, because sometimes there's some battles where it's just like, you get to a point where you're like, the only downfall is like the battle slayings, they're not fast, it's like it takes, you got to shoot like every ghost like 15 times, it seems like, before they finally die. So there's sometimes comes a point where you're just like, I just need to get on to the next area. Like, if I don't have to fight you, I'm not going to fight you.
Yeah, and there were quite a few points, especially on like we're talking about. So you were going back and forth to this mountain. We'll get into it like story wise here in a bit, but you're just going back and forth through the same areas, just kind of over and over and over again and whatnot. And there comes a certain point where it's like, I know I can just run through this, like there's nothing to stop me until you get inside of a building. And then once you're inside of a building and there's physical doors and whatnot, like when there's something physically stopping you from going to the next area, like the game will 100% say, there's a malicious force in this room. You need to kill, I'm paraphrasing, but more or less that's what it is, before you
generally you go to the door and it would say something like, there's an evil force holding this door shut,
right.
Or a strong force or something like that. And it was like, that was always my cue that like, okay, I got to kill this thing here now.
Well, and there's a lot of parallels here too in my experience in this game to Devil May Cry, in the fact of like demon doors and things, where you got to collect a certain amount of orbs to open it. There's chapters, you're rated on an S ranking scale, based off like there's so much like Devil May Cry data, like DNA in this game, like. And I'm so curious. This is what is really driving me to go like, yes, let's play the whole series, because I'm invested at this point. And I hear that this is like the worst out of all of them. So like, for how excited I am about this one, like hell yeah, dude, I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, as I say, because it's one of those ones like, it's got some of its like pitfalls in here and just some like little bit of goofs. And maybe it drags on a little bit longer, but it's like at the same time, the experience was so good. I don't care. Yeah. Like I was still having a great time, killing ghosts and everything like that. And I like to think of it that way, because you read all these notes as you're going through, and they want you to feel sorry for these ghosts. Like, Yusei went up here and committed suicide and hung himself by a tree. And like, dude, after they start attacking me, I'm like, I don't got a whole lot of sympathy for you guys anymore. You're all out here being assholes. As I'm like, you know what I mean? Yeah. And even like the little kids when they're running around and stuff, like, ba 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 ba, and they like start like hitting you. It's just like, well, guess what? I'm killing children in this game. I don't care. Like, very few video games allow you to kill children, and I don't care that they're ghosts. They are getting killed because my camera is a camera of death.
Yep.
That's how I just picture Yuri's is up here, just like, she's like, oh, I'm just gonna put all these ghosts out of their misery.
Yeah, exactly.
Death. What do you all know about death?
That's funny. Yep. Yeah. So I think the only other. There might be a couple more mechanics, but the next mechanic that I'd like to talk about is this just really goofy. So when you walk up to an item, the game every time makes you slowly put your hand out, start to reach for that item or whatever. And then you get this coin flip chance of a ghost, literally a ghost arm, not a ghost, but a ghost arm just appears out of the ether and grabs you. And bro, every time it happened, in my own head, I am playing Dave Chappelle's "Gotcha, bitch," like every fucking time, dude.
Well, it's like every single time, like if I got grabbed by that ghost, I'd be like, oh, you dirty ghost got me again. Because I don't know, there was nothing really scary about it. It was just more like, oh damn it, he got me, like one of those things. And mostly what happened is, because when you first play the game, you don't know that there's this feature. You just go to grab every item and you're like, why the hell am I grabbing everything really slow? And then I kind of put two and two together. I'm like, oh, something's gonna pop out at some point here, And then eventually the ghost arms start to come out, and so you're holding down R2 and you're slowly reaching, and what you're supposed to do is if that ghost arm comes, you let go R2 and she pulls back. And if you don't, you get grabbed and you lose just a little bit of health. Nothing too much, but just enough to kind of like, piss you off slightly.
Yeah. Yeah. And what's dumb about it is, so like, again, dude, like this feature just wasn't well thought out. You reach for the item, the ghost arm grabs you. You start slamming your sticks around and whatnot to shake it off, and whatnot. The next time you grab for that item, 100% of the time, it will never grab you again. So it's like, this is literally just an annoying feature for it to be annoying, On
Yeah,
top of that,
I thought about that the whole time I was playing the game. I was like, can the ghost ever grab twice? And I never saw it. Never saw it.
Yeah, I mean, maybe there's a chance. I never saw it either. And you grab hundreds of items in this game.
Yeah, you do. I don't dislike the feature. I still thought it was kind of fun, and it did add a little bit of like, oh, you don't know, it's a little bit there. But the weirdest thing is like, I mean, you'll do it on everything. You grab a file, it does it. You grab an item, you do it. Like you open a door, it does it.
So that was something else that I was paying attention to, because this feature is so strange, you know, especially in modern terms. You know, like if you're playing on the Wii U, like I get it, because you're playing with, you know, like motion features and all the gyro stuff and all the other stuff that comes along with the Wii U. But in today's lens, you know, playing on an Xbox 360 controller on a PC and all that, it's just it's a strange feature. The other side of this too was so, like you just mentioned, you can grab notes, and notes is the same exact thing. Forever, for 8 chapters, like every time I reach for a note, I'm expecting a ghost hand to just appear out of nowhere and grab me, but like it never happened. So I started to get into this rhythm of just like, oh, if it's a note, yeah, it's weird that it's still making me slowly reach for it, you know. But then the one time it happened, I'm grabbing a note and a fucking ghost arm comes out, and I'm like, what? You know, like, and it was flip flopping on me like that. So yeah, the RNG on it is very much. It's got to be a 20-sided dice or something. Like I have no idea what it is, but
well,
yeah,
and then if you're wet, it's more often. So
okay, so
the wetter you are, the more ghost hands are going to reach out and grab you.
Yep. Yeah, like the other thing, we talked about this fairly extensively, and I showed you some data based on, and I'm very, very confident at this point that based off what you're telling me on the Switch version versus the version I'm playing, physics in this game are just they're broken on PC. They just don't work the way that they should. I'm so curious if I go and I frame lock this game to 30 frames a second or 60 or whatever, you know, like call it 30, match it to the Wii U, if these weird physics things will stop happening. So one is clothing, you know, like just in general, just cloth, flowy things, you know, in the environment and whatnot. When you're walking, it looks like Yuri's skirt, you know, looks like it has like a wireframe like built around it that forcefully like shoves it out from her. So every time she's walking, she has this massive like looking hips, you know, going into her little skinny frame and whatnot, you know, and it's just because the cloth doesn't, and it's not reacting properly to the physics engine, you know. So like it's just goofy. It's just goofy as fuck. Look, on top of that, because this is fucking Koei Tecmo, and I forgot about that leading into this game. The boob jiggle, dude. Oh my god, it's so distracting. Like it's so.
You know what? And I think it's more intense on your PC version, because I didn't even notice it until you sent me a text about that. You're like, dude, the boob jiggle on this one's extreme. And I was like, what? And I'm like, and then I had to put some effort. I had to do like some 180 turns. I'm like, oh, yeah. It is there a bit. Yeah. But I think it's yours has it where like there's like frame skippage or something like that.
I don't know what it is, because again, like, you know, I explained at the start of the episode about day one of playing this game and the frame rate being all fucked up and, you know, like matching game speed and all that. Surely there's something wrong, dude. There's something really wrong here, because like, especially like the go collect the character and drag her ass back down the mountain, you know, type missions where you have to kind of walk slow and you have to kind of do these things. Like you
don't have to walk slow on those. You could literally book it and they just teleport. Did you?
So I figured that out. I figured that out later in the game.
Yeah, because I was going to say, because I remember you were talking about like, you're like these escort missions. I'm like, well, it's not really a whole lot of escorting. It's more just like, you got to figure out your way out of here and so on like that. Yep.
But the first chick that you go and grab and you're taking her back down the mountain or whatever, and like I filmed it and I texted to you and I'm like, no, dude, like I'm telling you, like the physics are just goofy, you know. And this chick's like walking all, you know, and everything's fine, and then she stops and they go. It's just like, oh my god. You know. So again, just it's goofy. It kind of broke my immersion a bit, but at the same time, it's just like whatever, you know. Like it is.
Yeah. I'll say on the Switch at least, it was like normal Dead or Alive style, like physics.
Yeah.
Yours was like Dead or Alive 1 physics.
Right. Yep. Yep. So, yeah. Yeah, I think in terms of core concept design, all that, like, pretty sure we covered most of the mechanics of the game.
Yeah, and the mechanics is like that's probably like I mean that took up so much like talking because that is like such a major part of like what makes this game what it is,
Yep.
you know. And then beyond that, then you get into the story of here we are going to the mountain, and we keep finding people like in boxes. Like we go up to the mountain, we find somebody just stuffed in this like looks like a almost like a half coffin looking container thing, this black thing, and it's oozing out all this dark matter water. And when you open it up, we keep finding these people that we're looking for and so on like that. And for some reason, they're just totally okay in there.
Yeah,
you get them out, they're just like they're taking a nap, you know?
They're just, fuck, man, why'd you wake me up?
Yeah, like some immersion chamber or something like that. They're like, I was having a real good experience, you know? And then you got to drag them down the mountain. And this is like the one thing about the game, though, that I did think was kind of like, why do we always, every single time we start from our like antique shop, we run to the mountain, we go to whatever location we need to go to, a building, train station, there's all kinds of different places. But then once you finish like your main goal, you have to always come back down the mountain.
Yep.
It's like can't we just have like okay, we're back at the place, like just have a cutscene. Why do we have to run back down again? Like And granted, there is some levels where you're like, oh good, I only had to go like 3 rooms and it finally had a cutscene and I'm back down here. But then some of them, it's like, dude, you had to go all the way back through the area you just came through, and that's where I'd get really turned around. I don't know what it was. Like I had no problem getting to my destination, getting back. Boy, did I get lost! Like especially like in that dollhouse, man, I was getting like so turned around there. It's like, where do I need to go? How do I get back out of here? I have a map and everything, and I can't figure this out.
Right. Yeah. Environments tend to blend, especially outdoor environments in this game. Like, because I struggle with the same thing. Now imagine that I played over half of this game thinking that I had to slow walk escort missions. Bro, like I tell you, I learned that map. I learned that map really good based off that. But here's the thing. Any new player that goes into this experience, I argue like they should make that a thing for one mission. Because when I'm slow walking through that forest, again, with the atmosphere, with the thing, like all this stuff going on, the ghost battles, just literally everything going on. The game just, I use the term way too often in this podcast, but oozing atmosphere. Dude, this game, it's wonderful playing at that speed, like being able to like slow walk with your camera, or your flashlight and whatnot, and like really get yourself enveloped into the environment. So then I started paying attention to things, like the dolls hanging up in the trees and shit like that, like I saw, like a creek, starting to break its way through, like through this pathway or whatever. And you kind of look down that way and there's like rocks and there's trees and there's blah, blah, blah. The environmental design of this place is wonderful. It's so well. And it's like, it's kind of obscured because like you said, when you do run through it, when you move at a normal pace or move at a sprinting pace or whatever, a lot of that just turns into a blur, because it's all just browns and greens and, like things like that. But if you take your time in some of these areas, especially the outdoor areas, in my opinion, the game is just it fires on all cylinders. It's too slow for my taste. I text that to you. I'm just like, man, like I feel like regular non-sprint movement speed needs to be like 0.5x faster. It's just a hair too slow.
They are not trotting fast enough for sure. That's 100%. I'm kind of glad this game doesn't have any of that parts where that forces you to really walk like that. Like there's some games where like they force you to walk like that. That's something that drives me like whenever you're playing a game and they're like, some character wants to talk to you and they're like, let's walk, and you're like, no, we're playing a video game. Do not make me walk and talk to you. I don't even like you. Like, that's one of my most biggest pet peeves is when they make you like, we can run and talk, I don't mind that, but don't slow down. Or it's like in like Red Dead, we're like, let's like make the horses just really go at a nice slow speed. They had a rough day. It's like, it's a video game, they did not have a rough day.
Yep exactly.
Yeah. But and this one here, like I will say, sometimes does it feel like the sprinting sometimes has like 2 different speeds as well? Because sometimes I feel like I'm sprinting faster, and then sometimes I feel like I'm sprinting at like a medium sprint speed. And I don't know if it's depending if you're inside or outside or what.
So I did notice that myself. Notably, and this is like one of the very few complaints I have about this game. It really does not feel designed for twin sticks, like in general. Like your movement, your forward, back, strafe left, strafe right, you know, is all and it doesn't even really work that way. It's omnidirectional on your left stick, so your character can kind of like turn any one direction that it wants. And really, what it feels like, it feels like the type of game that like you need to be moving with your left stick and the camera is going to pan for you and get behind your character, you know, because if you force it with the right stick, which is controlling your flashlight more or less, your character can just get all fucking ass backwards. It's like, I never know if my character is physically going to turn 180 and walk that direction, or if her dumbass is just gonna be holding the flashlight one direction, walking backwards, you know. And it's like, it's because the sticks are fighting with each other. That paired with the ever so slightly, and I'm actually curious. I'm glad to hear you say this because it's not just me on PC, because I'm thinking that these are PC problems at this point. But there's ever so slightly delay from pulling L2 to going into a full sprint. You know, like there's an ever so slightly delay. I also think it's affected by, because I don't know if you recognize this, but you can literally just hold L2 with no other inputs whatsoever, and your character just runs forward.
Yeah.
This is the other thing that was fucking me up. I didn't realize that for a good long while. So I'm pulling L2 and I'm trying to move the left stick, and it's just throwing my character way off. So like the controls really weren't well thought out here in the re-release. I'd be so curious to see this on Wii U and play on original platform and see if there's just like something weird about it, you know, there, or if this is just literal just Koei Tecmo jank, you know, like I don't know. You know. But,
you know, and I'm thinking that it probably wasn't that much different on the Wii U for this kind of stuff for the most part, because the Wii U is still a normal controller just like this. It just happens to have a screen in the dead center. Because I noticed it's like one of those ones. I will say, like, I like the fact that, like, I felt, you know, we've complained about a lot of these games here that try to have the omnidirectional with like the tank controls and then not understanding how it like executes with like the screens and all that stuff. You know, where this one I feel like it's kind of nice that like when you're just walking, it's omnidirectional, so you can just go like that. And then when you hold down, well, mine was L1, but like when you hold down the run button, you just start running forward, and then they become like partial tank controls. They're not like Resident Evil tank controls, but they're generally like that. The one thing I just noticed is when you are at full sprint, when you go to like turn and you're using like the camera and everything like that, it feels like you're turning like a ship though, because she does not turn. Yeah. It's like you're curving around this thing like you're going around a NASCAR track or something like that.
No, it's like imagine like you're controlling a fucking refrigerator is what it feels like. I mean, like it's just like big and hulky, but you have this like little skinny little frame, you know, of this girl in front of you or whatever.
Yeah, or Ren for that matter too. Yeah,
you know,
dude.
And like your nose is just always grinding on walls, you know, everywhere you go, especially in these tight little corridors and tight little environments. But all that aside.
It's like one of those ones. The farther I kind of got into it, I got a little bit more used to it. As I said, my biggest issue was just the turning, both the camera and all that kind of stuff. Like even if the sensitivity turned up all the way, it just never turned as fast as I would want it to turn. Mm-hmm. You know, and it was never bad, but it was just one of those ones you always just wish you had a little bit more speed in that, a little bit more go. But at the same time, you got to think about it. Like, once again, if it's a Wii U game, that pretty much means it's like an Xbox 360 or a PS3 game, because that's what a Wii U game pretty much is at the end of the day. Yeah. So this game is it feels newer than like it really is, but technology-wise, it is kind of like an older game. So if you look at it in that standard, it doesn't seem like it's as farther off.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I really don't. I mean, because I watched original footage of this game and whatnot too. I really don't. They didn't do much in terms of this re-release. Like they upscaled it 100%. Like that happened, but
I think they upscaled it and they raised the frame rate. I think that's like the. So it's probably, well, at least on the Switch, it's probably 1080 60, and yours it might be a little bit more, but
yeah. Because I just ran this. You know,
yours is 1080 300.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm actually really curious about that. Like I said, like my two complaints about this game was one was controls, two was the wonky ass fucking physics that I think is literally just tied to frame rate. I'm pretty sure that's the case. I'd be so curious because I still haven't installed. I need to test it and get back to you on this, but I want to lower that frame rate down to 30 and see if that affects anything. You know, like if I can frame lock it there, maybe the game would operate a bit more smoothly, quote unquote. But
yeah, because I kind of wonder that too, because I said I didn't notice until you brought that up. There were some of those things like I was looking hard for it in my version.
Yeah.
Like I was like, I don't see this here,
Yep.
you know, because on the Switch I didn't have, or even on the Switch 2, I don't think there's much of a difference on that. I don't think that game had an upgrade
Yeah.
feature.
Yep.
You know, I just didn't notice any of those things for the most part. You know, it seemed like it ran pretty darn smooth and all
Yeah.
that stuff.
Yeah.
You know, and that's probably the lesser version realistically if it's the Switch one. But then again, it's more than the Wii U, so
Yeah. So kind of go back to, you know, so a lot of this game in its story, and this is another, God, I'm gonna sound super negative on this. I'm very excited about this game. I really like this game, but like there's just weird things. So it's like, dude, your first task as Yuri, go to the mountain, get the girl, bring her back. Cool, you go and do that, you know. You play as Ren for the next thing. His whole thing is like, I'm going to investigate the mountain. I'm going to learn some things. And blah, blah. You go up to the mountain, you learn some shit, you come back. You go back to Yuri at some point, and it's like, yeah, that girl that you just brought up, yeah, Ghost just came down, took her hand, led her back, her ass back up to the mountain. And it's like,
go back up the mountain again.
Go back to the mountain, grab the girl. And like nothing is like really happening this whole time. You're like literally just going up, you're fighting ghosts, and you know, like you grab the girl, hey, come with me, please. You know, like back down the mountain. And then it happens over and over and you're just back and forth to this fucking mountain. And the whole time I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, who is Yuri? Why is she here? Why does she care about all these people going up to the mountain? Like, blah, blah, blah. But that's where this story really, like, and it's really like, it's its second half. It's like the last quarter of the game really is like where everything's just like exposition dump, blah, you know, just like, here's all the shit that's going on. But I love the way that this led up to it, you know. So on your missions up to the mountain over and over again, like you're running into regular, what I would consider a regular ghost, you know, like just the
regular suicide
dude.
people.
Yeah, you know. And then the other one is, you know, like the so you start to learn about, you know, the Black Water, the maidens of the, you know, the shrine maidens and blah 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 and all these things and whatnot, and you start to like recognize like, oh, there was something really bad that happened up here, you know, that like caused this Black Water, that caused these shrine maidens to show up, and like they're all in these random boxes that we're finding all over the mountain and blah blah blah. And then we come across like, and I forgot his name, but he's like this just insane, crazy, wild Japanese man with a katana, you know, or whatever. That just
Well,
like
he's got the big old blade thing that he's like, you know, you would use to slice cheese or something like that. And he's like cutting these shrine maidens up with it.
yeah. So he's like this like murderous dude on the mountain or whatever, you know, and like you're constantly running into this dude like over and over and over again. You're snapping pictures of him, you banish him to the shadow realm, and then he comes back 5 frames later and blah blah, you know, like but you know, it's the culmination. It's the slow sweep, you know, throughout its first like 10 chapters or so. I kind of saw the writing on the wall really early, you know, of just like, oh, the boxes, the dead shrine maidens, the cleansing pools, the rivers that exist here, like this man killed all this, caused some kind of affliction, you know, like that's what's really going on. And there's some nuances to that, you know, but like ultimately that's kind of it, you know, like there's a lot of things like surrounding that are very hyper involved with certain characters or whatever. But in general, like we're there to solve the murder mystery on the mountain. You know, like, I mean, that's ultimately why we're here. So.
Yeah, that, and then we find 1,000 suicide notes that people left out here and so on, and they want me to feel sympathy for them, but I don't.
Yeah.
I don't feel, not when they're attacking me. I don't feel bad for any of these people here. I'm here to put them out of their misery. That's what Yuri was sent up there for. She was sent to cleanse this mountain.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You know, and take these people out and whatnot. But
tonally though, like yeah, a lot of it's goofy, you know, like I mean you're reading suicide notes and blah blah blah, but like tonally though, like this game is dark, dude. Well, and again, for it to exist on Nintendo system, like it is dark.
Yeah, just first and foremost, you know, Nintendo's always had their mature section, and when they mostly go mature, they mostly will go harder than sometimes other things, strangely enough. You know, it's like the N64. I felt like the N64 had a lot of matureness going with it, you know, with all the Turoks and Quake and all that kind of stuff. But No, just if you compare it to like Resident Evil or even Silent Hill or something like that, like just the stuff that's going on in this one, it's like it's a lot more intense. Because realistically, if you take away the suicide notes and all that kind of stuff, the game almost feels like it could be a teen-rated game because there's not blood and guts and there's not any of that kind of stuff. You're battling ghosts, you know, and so on like that. It's all the darkness of like the suicide and these like depressed people, and you're watching people jump off a cliff face first into the ground, you know. And then as you kill these ghosts too, sometimes you have this opportunity where some of the ghosts will kind of like stay there for a second, and you can reach up and touch them. Of course, you slow touch them again. I want to say, you can touch them, but then you get these cool like almost like videos that play out, and they almost have this found footage graininess look. Like when I first saw them, I actually almost thought they were live action because they're so grainy and stuff like that. I was like, did they actually go out and like do some FMV type stuff, like old school style? And it's like, oh no, it's not. But it almost looked like that at first. And you see just these different things that really have nothing to do with the core plot, but just like there's just these interesting stories of like what happened to certain people on the mountain and whatnot. And I think that was kind of a neat feature.
No, I love this because it's based off enemy type, you know. So like you can touch the regular ghost versus the Shrine Maiden versus the, you know, the crazy man with the blade and all that, and they all have their different stories. So like this is a piece of Yuri that I found like super interesting, is that she has this like innate ability to be able to communicate and, you know, deal with ghosts, apparitions, you know, like otherworldly type stuff by touching them, and she doesn't get basically affected by their whatever, their evilness, their spirit, their blah blah, you know, like whatever. And I thought that these stories were so fucking cool, like they were so good. And I was excited to come across a new enemy type because it's like, cool, I can kill that thing and go touch it and see like more or less like it's Yuri like in her own vision, like seeing like how that person died, you know, more or less, you know, is like their ending piece, you know, why they're in the forest and blah blah blah. Super cool because it almost feels like a fucking Pokédex at that point, you know, like where you're just like, you know, like taking stuff in your
souls.
You know? No, it's super rad. I thought it was awesome, you know.
No, I just think it was cool, and it looks neat and so on like that, and each one's sort of different from the next, so you just never know really what to expect. That's just such a cool feature. There's another part too that I guess is jumping around a little bit, but that's kind of how this game sort of feels. Like it kind of feels like it's there, but it feels like it's a collection of memories and fragments. There's a part where you're playing as Ren, and after a while you've collected a handful of the girls and you got them back, and it's one of those ones where Ren's like, I set up a bunch of cameras around the house and I'm gonna check on the girls as like, you know, the night goes on because it's the witching hour and everything, and I'll make sure you're all protected. And I was like, holy crap, this is literally like Night Trap on Sega CD. It's literally that game, but this like done in a modern kind of way where you can get up and go, because you're literally flipping through these cameras and you're going through and you're watching them and you're looking for stuff to happen, and like you'll be a little ghost activity and something like that, and then you go, oh shit, there's ghost activity, and then you get up and you go like, I gotta go to Yuri's room, which just seems so, if you was any other guy just being like, let me go check on these women as they're sleeping.
Exactly.
Don't worry, women. And you know, and all the girls just sleep in their full outfits, like no blankets, no nothing, just laying on the bed. I know that's just a game thing, but like
no, exactly. In this whole section is just a game thing or whatever. But I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, okay, all right. This building is a fucking tea house. It's a business, right? In the back rooms of this fucking business, all these people live in. It's 4 women and a guy. And the one dude that exists there has fucking cameras in everybody's room that they may or may not know about. You know? Like, I'm just like, what is this, dude? You know? But no, super cool scene because it to match more of a modern title that this mirrors more or less is like, it's like Five Nights at Freddy's. I don't know if you've ever played that or not.
Yeah, I watched the movie.
Yeah,
I had time to kill once, and I went and saw that movie in cinemas. So I felt like I saw what that was all about. Well, it's that, or I'd say if using another movie reference, it's kind of like Paranormal Activity. Is the other way it sort of is.
Yep. But I really, really like these. I thought they were super cool because it happens twice. I think the second one is better. But the first one more or less like just kind of gets the concept around of like, okay, you're staring at monitors, you know, and like Spence says, you know, witness some ghost activity, go check on the chick, you know. Oh, she seems fine. No ghost.
Or you go in there and you have this really dramatic ghost battle and she doesn't even wake up.
Right. Yep.
I'm in this little room. I'm fighting this ghost off. It's like talk about being like stuck in like there's nowhere to run.
Yeah.
And Yuri's just there sleeping peacefully. Don't mind me.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yep.
Well, and then also Ren does the other creepy thing too, where he'll go in there and be like, "It's Yuri's diary. I better take this."
Yeah. Exactly. Yep. Yep. Yeah, I'm trying to think of other like highlight sections. There's some like really cool like traversal stuff. Arguably it is the fucking longest goddamn chapter, but chapter 6, dude, like chapter 6 in general.
Way long. It's like an hour. Because at first we're like, yeah, these chapters they're like a half an hour to 40 minutes long, and this was like an hour and a half all of a sudden.
Oh my god, dude, it took forever. But again, back to the Souls comment, the Dark Souls comment and whatnot, that level just loops and loops and loops and loops on itself over and over and over. And like, talk about, again, I know that map now. I know exactly how to get through it because I fucked up so many times trying to path my way through that place. But yeah, so like there's a little bit of padding in sections like that, but ultimately like this kind of feels like not that there's like a ton of like open worldness, but similar to my comments about The Evil Within 2 a couple weeks ago. It's like really wide at the base of the game, at the start of the game, everything's like super wide and whatnot, and as the game starts to get into its final like half, its final third, final quarter, it really just narrows down and just hyper focuses, and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where this game is like firing on all cylinders. The story still makes not a ton of sense to me and whatnot, but like the story that it's trying to tell anyways is pretty well narrated. I think that it was well shown off and whatnot. There's just certain things that like are just very confusing, and it totally can just be a cultural thing. Like I may not fully understand the Japanese culture well enough to understand a lot of the references, a lot of the things that are going on in this game. But at the same time, like a little bit of post and research, and it's like, oh, that's what that meant. Oh, that's how that works. Oh, so.
Well, and each character has their own search for like who they're going for. Like we got Miyu, who we like come back around to later on. You find her again, and she's going up there to find her mom, which I didn't put 2 and 2 together, but that's the character from the very first Fatal Frame, along with Fatal Frame 3.
Yep.
And at first you kind of look at it like that's her mom. She's like 2 years older looking than her. It looks like an older sister or whatnot.
Yep.
And they got a really weird relationship too, because they like literally lay in bed right next to each other and stuff like that. Like,
Noses touching.
Yeah, exactly. Ren comes in, like puts his hand on. Good, they're asleep. They look so beautiful next to each other. And I didn't see this in the game, but I read later on that apparently because of like all this stuff that Miku, the main character from the original Fatal Frame /3, but apparently in 3 she goes through whatever like transformation and it keeps her young in a sense, even though she has a kid and all this stuff, but like her body doesn't age or something strange.
I gotcha. Okay. Yeah, because that was really strange, and I really didn't like even think about it really until you text me, and you're just like, it's so funny that Miku is only like 2 years older than her daughter, and blah blah blah. And it's like you start to look at it and you're like, yeah, that's a like
the only thing that makes her feel like that she's more adult is she's like literally like 6 inches taller than her.
Right. Yeah.
It's like that's the only thing that's kind of there. It's like it's amazing like how like. Yeah, it's like I feel like you could have like done like just maybe sort of the way she dresses. She has that like older like anime sort of look to her, but yeah, I still thought that was weird. But that's the thing. Miyu's looking for her mom. Yuri's looking for who the hell is Yuri looking for? She's looking for somebody, and Ren's just there to write articles for his book or whatnot, and he's got his assistant Ray or whatever. What's her name? REI? Was it her name? I could be drawing a blank on that.
It's something like that. Is it Rui?
They all have like really like short.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe it's
like,
Rui. That sounds more like it.
Yeah. Anyways, but yeah, his assistant.
So yeah, you have Rui, and you don't have. She's just always just sort of there like sleeping in Ren's like office. Yeah. Or on the floor for some reason, just like passed out.
Yep. He's dude. Like, so that's another thing that crossed my mind, just as a funny haha or whatever. But like, similar to, what's his face from Silent Hill F giving the girl the red pills. It's like I'm like putting two and two together. I'm like, is Ren just like a piece of shit? You know, just predator, like just preying on women all the time. You know, like, yes, sleep. You know, I'm gonna watch you on my cameras. So, you know,
yeah, like
so
weird cameras.
But he's not like that at all. You know, like
no, it never comes around that he's a bad guy or anything, or something's off about him.
There's just something weird about that character that the game does not present at all. This is just my own brain going off, because he's very straight laced with his little tie and, you know, like little investigator dude. Blah blah blah. You know,
yeah, and he's like very Japanese, doing everything right and doing everything like for honor in a sense. Like I'm here to protect these girls. Like
right.
I would never have any ill will thoughts.
Yeah. Oh, man, yeah, just strange, but.
You know, it's one of those ones. Just like as you're watching it as the observer on the outside, it's
Yeah,
it's weird. But you know, I gotta say this. There was one ghost type. This is the one that kind of shocked me a bunch. Like when I first kind of ran into it, because for the most part, I'm gonna say this: ghosts are one of those ones. I think they're interesting, but they don't scare me the same way that other kind of creatures do in games and so on like that. A lot of times I don't know what it is. I get like that Scooby Doo feel, like go ghost, you know. So like I'm almost having more fun with the ghosts as they pop up and so on like that. But there's one that appeared, and she appears like twice in the game, and the first time it just kind of shocked me because it was in this one area where there's like this stupid pond area that you got to cross like it feels like 7 times, and you got to do this slow trudge through the stupid water and so on like that. But there's one part you come up on a landing, and all of a sudden there's a ghost there. And it's like, oh, this ghost is like 16 feet tall. Like literally, it's like the chick. It's like Lady D from like Resident Evil 8, but done way before then, and whatnot. And I remember that first time. It's like, oh, I didn't. It's the only character that's that tall, and I don't remember any backstory on it. Like maybe there's a note somewhere that explains who this is.
Yeah, because this exact character shows up in the next
Ren Part 2.
In the next night trap scene, and literally jump scared me, dude. Like I knew that something was gonna, you know, if you're on
because you're flipping through these cameras,
flip, you know, like something's gonna jump out at you. But I did not expect that, dude, because that chick's face is like literally up against the camera, and she's standing 16 feet tall, just staring at you. Like it's like, what the hell?
You know what's the other one I also like too? It's in that Ren Part 2, is the part where it's flipping through the camera, and you're always looking for like, where's the ghost in the girls' room? Where's the ghost in the girls' room? And then all of a sudden, you just hear sounds. You're like, well, what the heck's going on there? And you just hear it gets louder and louder, and it's like that shaking, like Japanese whatever, like, you know, I don't know what it is. Like it's like if you like dried out a fruit or something like that and put a bunch of like seeds in there, and it makes that rattling sound. And all of a sudden you're like, I gotta stand up and see what this is. I stand up, there's 2 guys standing there like, yo, what's going on? Like, oh jeez.
Yep.
But it was so good that it didn't do like the jump scare where it's like, oh, we're gonna pull you off the computer monitor or whatever like that. No, it lets you make the decision when to get up by the sound effects just being like, what is going on in the room?
What is that noise? And just that's actually got me too, man. That's super fun.
You know, but a lot of times that was kind of it. But I said that big lady, it really took me by surprise, because you just never saw anything else like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And as I said, maybe there's probably some notes in there that's explaining who this is or why this lady's so much taller than everything else.
Yeah.
But I don't remember finding those myself, or at least if I did, I just spaced out on it.
Well, that's a piece too. It's like on top of an overabundance of items and things, and like there's a billion fucking notes in this game, and they're not
more notes than almost any other game.
Yeah, it's an insane amount of notes. Yes, I read a lot of it, but at the same time, like none of it really stuck, because like a lot of it's just like written in a way that just isn't memorable, you know, like whatsoever or whatever. And again, I think a portion of it is like even just trying to connect the pieces between the characters we actually control versus things that are going on in the environment, things that are happening in the lore and story and whatnot. It's hard to put all these pieces together when it's not told so, you know, just like straight line, you know, and whatnot. Like you got to put a lot of pieces together in your head for this to make sense, you know. But at the same time, I don't feel like this game was like primarily developed to tell a just like, you know, a really good story or anything like that. Like the story is serviceable, it works, and and I think it totally plays into this game's favor to that extent. But it's not the next Elden Ring. It's not the next Red Dead. It's not the, like it's nothing like that. But at the same time, like I said, it's totally serviceable. Like I got enough enjoyment out of this. And then again, with post-in research and like really starting to connect the dots, like, yeah, there's actually some really cool shit here. I just wish that in game it was told better,
Yeah, well, a lot of times too with the notes, I hate to sort of say, it's also that one that by the time you find your 15th suicide note, they all start to run together. It's just a big whoop, whatever, Yep. Yeah, like your suicide was any better than the last 10.
Yeah.
Like you start to get to that point where you're like, it's kind of like same old, here we go. Somebody else died, somebody else fell from a cliff, you stabbed yourself in the neck.
Right.
What's new?
Yeah, and
real original.
Yeah. Because yet again here I'm gonna compare it to Silent Hill F, but like in Silent Hill F, like the note system like had cadence to it. It's just like X character's note part 1, part 2, part 3, like on, and like as you're progressing through the story, it's telling you a story as you're going, and like that's very memorable. This game similarly has that. Like there's connections of notes, through certain areas or whatever, but a lot of it just amounts to nothing. Like I don't get anything out of it. And that's a bit depressing, so.
Yeah. Well, and Silent Hill F that's like the best note system that things ever had, because it literally flowed into each other and you saw it like when you pulled it up on your item menu and all that stuff. Like they designed that so well, where this one you're just getting these fragmented notes that I guess if you went back in and looked at them in hindsight later on, you could put 1 and 2 and 3 together, but you're also getting a lot of different stories all at the same time. I think that's also what makes it kind of confusing. So maybe you'll find something that has to do with Yuri or Ren or something like that there, you're like, cool. And then you find characters that are kind of like, the Lady of Black, they're the Maiden of Black Water. You find stuff based on her. And then she had like a love interest with the dude who created the Obscura camera, back in like, I don't know, like the 1800s or something like that, whenever it was. So you have some of these things here, but then you're just getting the random suicide notes in between. So it's just, you're jumbled of so many different storylines here and, whatnot. But I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It's just, it does kind of make it a little bit more confusing. I felt like it was easier for me to put all this stuff together when I just looked it up like on Wikipedia than anything. It was like, oh, there we go. If just give me one note like that, it sort of sums it up real well.
Yep. Exactly.
And yeah, just all these different things. Because then you have the Maiden of Black Water, who is your main villain that you're seeing throughout this the whole time. She'll pop up, and she's got this dark kind of face going over these red eyes, and dripping down, oozing out all this stuff. And I almost want to say one of the first times you really run across her, she's out on this lake or ocean. I can't remember what the heck it is. It's just you can't see the other end. It looks like Tahoe or something.
Yep.
But you're out there, and she's one of the few times that you run into her that you can get a one-hit kill. And it's not that bad because it's like the game does not, it saves pretty generously whenever there's anything bad, so it takes care of you in that sense. And I only got one hit killed because she keeps popping up, and I was curving with my curving around NASCAR controls. I just ended up running into her one time, though. I gotta say, there was one point where I think it's when you play as Miyu and you go to rescue Yuri, and Yuri's walking into the ocean or whatever, and she's going towards the Maiden and stuff. And I remember we're like, okay, we got to run out of here because now I got to run back to the house. And I got lost in that ocean, and I could not figure out how to get. And I finally saw the beach, and I look off in like the far distance, and Yuri's just booking it. Did not wait for me whatsoever. I see her as far away as possible, going out the exit. Like, whose escort mission is this now?
Fuck this, I'm out. But oh, dude, the Black Maiden, dude, like the design of that chick is so cool. And it's really nothing special. It's really not. Like, it's a ghostly apparition in a black hood with a couple little flowers on her head or whatever.
Yeah, shrine maiden looking, and that's it.
But dude, her exposition, her dialogue, her whoever did the English voice acting for her nailed it. I really enjoyed it.
Did you play it in English?
I played it in English. Yep.
Okay, because I played it in Japanese just because I generally won't play a game in English unless it's an American game. Yep. But I don't know what it was. When I was reading stuff on there, it said something about they're like, oh, the English dub felt like it was really phoned in, and I was just now I kind of wondered.
No, majority of the characters, 100%. Yeah. This character though, dude, she nailed it. Because her whole thing is like suffer with me and blah blah blah, you know, and like I'm gonna suck you down into the depths and blah blah blah, you know, like yeah, I genuinely really enjoyed learning about this character. Her notes are fucking cool. You know, because
I like that stuff.
So, you know, like Ren at this point, like we kind of find out through notes and through experiences as playing as him or whatever, is that he is the descendant of that person that Spence just talked about that created the camera obscura, that was more or less the lover of the, what is it called, like the wildflower girl or something like that. They choose a little girl to sacrifice, more or less. Like the whole plot here is like that they choose a girl, they put her into a sacrifice situation, they kill her. And more or less, what the intent of that is that she is to absorb all the pain, all the suffering, all the, like, anything negative that can happen to humanity, like, she is going to assume, so nobody else has to deal with it. It's extremely selfish.
Yeah, some goofy Pandora's box thing that, yeah.
So she has this lover, Osua or Osoa or something like that. I forgot his last name, but that is the great grandfather of Ren, more or less. So that's why, like, the Ren's story in particular, like, really confused me, because, like, I didn't understand the whole correlation behind all this, because he's having all these, like, visions and shit, you know, like, as he's exploring and you're playing as him, and he's like seeing this little girl, and it's just this like little white haired girl with these little pigtail looking things and stuff, you know, and like it wasn't until post-end research that I started to understand a bit more. And like I said, him being the descendant, that grandfather's character or whatever was lovers of the little girl as children. The ritual happens, she dies or whatever. And then, you know, like the great grandfather thing, you know, like creates camera obscura, blah blah blah. But there's still a lot of missing pieces in that, you know. I don't quite understand like why, like where Ren falls into this, other than just straight up just being the descendant and having some kind of weird psychic something or other that he can communicate with this ancient old girl or something. Like I really don't know. I really, you know, it's very confusing. But ultimately, you have a choice. There's multiple choices throughout this, or at least towards the end of this game. But like with his, so you can choose some shrine maiden bride that I have no idea, and her name is, oh my god, what the Shiragiku, and I'm like, I have no idea who that is. I don't know what significance this chick has. Or you can choose the little girl, Osua or whatever her name is. I just chose the little girl because she had the most context for me the entirety of the game. Like I had no idea who this other bride was. I'm like, you know.
Well, they keep mentioning, like, because the bride thing comes up just story wise, as they're just telling you, it pretty much like that thing where these brides are just kind of old school traditional Japanese stuff, where these brides are just pretty much given out and so on like that, with none of their own real choices and so on there, you know. But then all of a sudden at the very end you get this decision for Ren, like, okay, you want the bride or you want the little girl? And it's like, well, that sounds weird when you say it like that,
right,
but,
yep.
But give me the little girl then, because she was more significant story wise. And then when I got my like final part there is, I thought it was like, okay, I wonder like what this means. And then next thing you know, I was fighting the little girl. So I'm like, okay, I guess I'm gonna kill the little girl now.
Oh wow, okay. So my ending was different.
Interesting.
So and this is in post-end research, literally just like within the last 2 hours, you know, of me like looking this up. There's so many. There's a handful of trigger points here. So do you choose the bride or the little girl is your first choice, right? Mm-hmm. So let's go with option A. We're going with the little girl, okay, which is what both of you and I did. And here's our differentiations in story. So me choosing the little girl and then allowing her to more or less hug me and pull me into that little box with her and get sucked into the black water or whatever. That's how my story ended with Ren, is he gets sucked into the box. I'm so curious what happens on yours when you fight her. What happens there?
Yeah, well, I definitely did get sucked into the box, so I don't know. Makes me wonder which one's considered the good ending then, because like I literally had to fight her, and it was like this big battle, and you battle her, and of course she's got all her little like those other little girls that show up that you got to take out too, and it took its sweet time actually, and then like I literally like killed her, and then like she just kind of disappeared and faded out, and she probably said something or whatnot. And then I think you got something or whatever but you went back to the house afterwards. Like that was kind of it. Like, so like it's almost like you put her, you know, put her down. Well, not put her down. Is not the term, but you put her.
Release her. You release her.
You free her soul out into the world. Yeah, in a sense. I think that was what mine was kind of going with. That was what it was alluding to.
Okay, so now these endings that I'm reading are making a whole lot more sense. So the other version is we go with option B. We select the maiden, the whatever, you know, the bride. Similar with that, you can choose to basically, like, similar to my ending, you know, like she takes you in or something, you know, or whatever, and then Ren is just locked in a state of just like emotional duress of like trying to love this woman and blah 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 and whatever. Again, like, it's very convoluted, but the other ending is that you basically have her accept that she's, I don't even know, she's dead, but you know, like, whatever, you know, like, she's this malicious spirit, and like, and her final wish is for you to take a photo of her to release her spirit, you know. So it's very similar in both A and B options, you know. So for my ending with the little girl, more or less all that means is that Ren fell into emotion at that point and is following his predecessor, or, you know, his descendants, you know, path to be with this little girl or whatever. So in your ending, you actually saved her, more or less, you know, like, you broke the curse. You broke the cycle.
I broke the curse and so on, like that, by defeating her or whatnot,
right?
You know, which is interesting. And it's one of those ones, like, I thought about going back and, like, I was like, it'd be cool to go back and get all those other endings. But the downfall was that chapter, it took a long time to get back to that point. I mean, probably if you went to play it again, it would be a little bit faster. But
yeah,
I kind of wish that, like, because they break it up in chapters, I almost wish that last chapter just kind of like started you off, like, maybe not right there where those decisions are made, but like closer, and you didn't have that whole lead up to there, just so you could go through.
Here's the problem with the last chapter too, is that you start back at the fucking tea house and you run up the goddamn mountain with Yuri, and then it brings you right back to the tea house, and now you're playing as Ren. You got to run up the totality of the fucking mountain with him. And I was so thankful by the time we got to Miyu that, like, she literally goes through 2 sections and then it's just like, okay, cutscene. Like, yeah, thank God, you know. But
yeah, because it's like, I think that was the reason why I didn't want to go back to see what the other endings were. And I normally would have, but just it felt like it was like, you're asking, felt like a lot of work to do that. Yeah, I think they could have been split up into chapters, almost, those things. If anything, you could have had Yuri has her chapter ending, Ren has his, Miyu has hers even. I don't know, that might be, you don't probably have to go that far, but... Or just skip the running back up the mountain again. Like, I don't know why we couldn't just warp to like the top for each character.
No, exactly, because nothing happens there. You literally just run to the location, and then a cutscene plays, and then, you know, like,
that's all it is. I just ran. I'm like, I'm not fighting any of these stupid ghosts. I'm just gonna run all the way up there. Don't forget about it, you know.
Yeah.
And then I guess going into, like, because going the other endings, I guess for Miyu's, I got the one where her and her mom literally have the super happy ending, and they go off together, you know, or she, you know, comes back and whatnot, like that. Which one did you get for her?
Same thing.
Yeah.
And I did not watch the other ending for Miyu. It's the one piece that I was missing walking into this podcast. I had watched all the other endings, and that was like the last, like, 5 minutes, you know, like, of the video that I was watching. I was like, well, I've got to start the podcast. So yeah, I have no idea what happens in the alternate ending for her.
Yeah, well, I think I think I did read about that one, though. Is I think what happens is Miku, in, I guess, the alternative ending, her brother comes out, who apparently is the one who dies, or who she's trying to save in the very first game. He's there, and she goes with him, and then leaves Miyu or whatever behind.
Yeah.
So I think that's what that one is.
Miyu's, like, general character, because again, like I mentioned at the start of the episode, she's pretty quiet most of this game. She doesn't say a whole lot or whatever, but it's very obvious she's got some mommy issues. Like, she's, like, you know, not sure of herself, has no idea who she is, and, like, you know, just very unconfident, very, very unconfident person. But yeah, I mean, like, you know, for our ending, it's like she overcomes a lot of that fear and stress and anxiety of like trying to figure out who she is and all that. She saves mom, you know, and she gets the bright happy ending where they're walking off in the sunset, you know, the blah blah blah. Yeah, her story was like it felt very flat to me, because like it's more or less just like it's just go find mom and save mom, you know, like that was her story, you know.
Yeah, which is weird because it's like it's got the main character from Fatal Frame in there, and it's kind of like it feels like the tacked on story in a weird way. Like you almost could pull that story out of here, and I don't think it really affects much.
No, this game easily could have been just Ryu and or not Ryu, but Ren and
Yuri.
But,
I feel like that's how it was, and then they felt like, you know what, let's see if we could tie this back to the older games. Like, it felt like that was what it was, and they're just sort of there. And it's not that it's bad, but it definitely feels like it almost feels like it's DLC or something like that.
Oh yeah.
You know, it doesn't feel like it's necessarily mainly part of the main thing.
Yeah. And
then we have Yuri, and that's kind of our main ending and whatnot like that. And I got the one where, like, I guess like the bad ending where she goes and joins the Maiden of Black Water and goes in with her and so on like that. And I read later on that like how that battle is if you're fighting her on the top and you are able to like touch her and absorb the memory, you get the good ending. And then if you go to the underground or underwater part or whatever and you absorb her down there, that's how you get the bad one. And I didn't realize you could absorb her right off the bat. Like I was just literally unloading all my film onto her, and then I finally realized I'm like, oh, I think I could go run over and touch her. But by that point, I was already so far into that battle that that gave me that secondary ending.
That is 100% what happened to me in that fight. I fought her above, and then I fought her below, and then I fought her above, and then I fought her below, and I'm like, holy shit, how many cycles of this is this gonna happen? Because like I'm burning all of my film at this point. Like, you know, like all my big dick damage film, you know, is just like getting burnt up here. And then it occurs to me, you know, just like, oh, maybe I can touch her, you know, because she does go into like a staggered state at one point or whatever, you know, and like I'm just sitting there with the camera just waiting, and then she kind of gets back up, and then we go underwater, and then we come back up to the surface and like back and forth. So in my ending, I randomly, this was not intentional whatsoever, but I happened to touch her above water, you know, more or less, which is the coin flip here. You know, this is the ending A versus ending B. So my ending, more or less, all that really happens is like Yuri just kind of walks up to her, you know, gives her a big old hug for the most part and says, it's okay. I'm paraphrasing, but like more or less like everything's fine. You're good. You know, like I'm going to release your soul, more or less, you know, like, and cleanses the Maiden of Black Water. Like, you know, and like that's kind of it, you know, but
you get the super happy ending.
But yeah, very, very interesting game. You know, and like I'm so curious to see what number all the rest of them, honestly. Like at this point, like I'm invested into Fatal Frame, and I'm like, cool, you know, like I knew that buying this game all those years ago, like 4 or 5 years ago, like would be a good idea. Thank God we have this podcast to actually force me to play it, and thank God we did it, because I really liked this. I thought it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's same here. It's like one of those ones. The experience of this one was really solid. You know, it's not the most perfect game, but a lot of that stuff doesn't really bring it down too much. It's just there's some goofy clunkiness here and there, but it's never enough to pull you away from the game. The game still plays smooth enough. You never really get screwed over in this game. I think that also helps with it, because that's a lot of times it's like if you have clunkiness in a game and then you get really screwed over, it's like a double whammy. You're like, oh, so it's just insult to injury right there. Where this game, it doesn't. It's pretty enjoyable. I'll say the one thing for me is I just feel like it probably could be trimmed down a little bit. It's a little bit on the long slide. And I think mainly it's because you always have to run back down the stupid mountain every single time. It's all that kind of stuff. It's like, you know, where, you know, I'm not too sure. I should have counted all because you would have to manually add up all your time and see exactly how long it took to go through it. But, I don't know. It felt like you probably could have shaved like 2 hours off somehow, some way. And it would have been, if it would have played in that like maybe 6 to 8 like time range, I think it would have been like that would have been solid. But I feel like the game was probably about 10 or 11 hours or so. Yeah, you know, just a hair.
I clocked 17.
You clocked 17? Oh, okay, yeah. So maybe it was longer than that. As I said, I didn't sit down and add it up, so I'm not really 100% sure. It was definitely longer than I thought it was going to be. I actually thought it was going to... When I was first playing, I'm like, these chapters go by kind of fast. This game was kind of like released kind of like differently than other stuff, not like a main title like, Resident Evil or something like that. Maybe it'll probably be one of those like nice 8-hour lengths, And because it had that kind of like replayability in it too, I was thinking that might add like, because, the game wants you to play it over, get a higher score, unlock all the bonus costumes, upgrade all your stuff. So it has all that stuff. So I was almost picturing like, is it going to be kind of like maybe Resident Evil 5? Is it going to be like Dino Crisis 2? Like that kind of length. But it was a little bit longer than that. Like it was, So
there's like 3 levels. Chapter 6, I think Chapter 11 and Chapter 12 are like the 3 like longest ones, because they all exceed an hour, and like in the grand scheme of things, isn't it playing over an hour? Is it really that big of a deal? No, but it's the level design, it's the repeating of returning back through areas over and over again. There's a lot of padding here. For sure.
I think that's kind of big. And a lot of times, too, is like, you'll run through an area with Yuri, and the next thing you know, you run through that same area again with Ren. Granted, you'll go down a different path eventually, but at first you just have that feeling like, what the hell? I was just here 2 seconds ago. Like, what am I doing? I'm going back to the dang dollhouse again.
And talk about... Okay, so we finished the game at this point, and then the game's like, hey, I got 4 more chapters for you.
Yeah.
What the fuck was the point of those chapters, dude? Like, cool. We get to play as a dead or alive character. Cool.
We played as Ayani, which I was excited about. That. I'm like, oh, badass. They had a little crossover. Ayani's in here. And then it's the weirdest thing. They're like, okay, it's Ayani, one of the most badass characters dead or alive. Well, guess what? She's battling ghosts this time, so she doesn't know what to do. That's okay. She's got this goofy flashlight thing. We're going to teach you this brand new mechanics. Because at first I was like, why don't you just give Ayani the camera? Like, I would have been fine with that. And so they give you this flashlight thing, and they really like hammer in during the tutorial, like, oh, there's this stealth here, and you're going to have to be quiet, and you're going to have to use all this stuff, and you're going to have these like distraction techniques. And then I realized, I'm just going to see what happens if I just run. And I realized really quickly that the ghosts do nothing. Yep. And I just ran through all 4 of these little tiny ass chapters that should have just been all like combined into one. And all it was just Ayani's like, she's got to go save this girl who's going to commit suicide.
It's literally the same fucking plot as everything else in this game. It's just go up the mountain, go get the girl, but this time you're playing as a little pink-haired chick, or like purple-haired chick or whatever.
Yeah. So you go up there, and it's just weird to be playing as Ayani and just like you have no combat. It's just like, I felt like kind of a really underused version of her. It's not like her and like Ninja Gaiden where she's really badass, you get to use all the cool moves and whatnot, or even in Dead or Alive, it's like, oh, okay, so that was there. That was, I don't think that was in the Wii U one. I think that was actually for some reason put into these.
Because I have that total of those 4 chapters combined. I have it clocked at 42 minutes, and I like, because like I told you, like
the tutorial level is probably the longest one of them all.
Right.
That very first one that for some reason doesn't have a time on it, like that one was because the other ones was like 3, and I think one of them was like 12.
Exactly. Really, really silly content. Cool. I mean, like I said, I love crossovers. I love seeing it. Like it's cool. Like whatever. But like, I got nothing out of that post-end content. It's just like, okay. I got an achievement for it.
It's like Dead or Alive is my all-time favorite fighting game to play. So I'm very like. I was so happy to see that, but at the same time, I was just like, oh, okay. I mean, it's bonus, so you can't complain about bonus, but
like I said, I got an achievement out of it. There's not an achievement.
No, Switch doesn't have achievement. That's not the only dumb thing. I don't know why that nobody's ever really thought about finally putting that in there. Nintendo is like 2 more consoles from now, they'll probably put it on there finally, but
and I think at the end of the day, this is a very. It's not groundbreaking. It's not, like, I'm not going to say it's earth shattering or anything like that. But, like I told you at the end of this, I'm like, I'm real comfortable giving this like a 6 to 7 out of 10. Like if I were going to put it on that type of scale.
We should just use our Resident Evil rating system.
Yeah, there you go.
Or Crazy Taxi rating system. You want to look at it. I think from now on. So what would you give it out of our like S to D rank or whatever?
I think this firmly fits somewhere between a C and a B. I think somewhere around that range. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Probably
I would
closer
probably
to the
go.
B range.
Yeah, I would probably go for solid B. I think that's where it is, and I would say like a high B in my opinion.
Okay.
I still liked it quite a bit. It's got some clunkiness in there. It's weird. It's like there's some games that are like A games that I almost feel like I might like this slightly more, but at the same time, I will say I couldn't imagine going back and playing this real soon.
No,
I felt like even though it has like that thing where there's all sorts of unlockables and all kinds of stuff like that, it didn't really give me the thing of like, what I want to do now is do a speed run through this now.
Yeah.
It didn't have that. I think it's just once again it's coming back down that mountain.
Yeah. Well, and I think the piece that will make me go back and replay this experience is ultimately whenever we get to 1 and 3 because of the Miyu
The
ties.
tie-ins.
And I'm very, very curious to see that now. I want to, like I said, I want to play all of them. And we have this fantastic opportunity that Fatal Frame 2 remake is coming. I would love to do that remake, and then eventually at some point down the future, like actually do the OG version. I'd love to play the actual PS2 version, do comparisons that way, and then have a baseline of like, this is the last Fatal Frame game that has come out.
It's kind of weird because it goes to show that like it's this game, and then it's like this the same time period that like Silent Hill kind of fell off the face of the earth for a while. So it was like one of those ones. The only people, other than some other like alternative games, Resident Evil was the only one really kind of going along, and that's actually that time period where like it was a little bit of a dry spell of stuff. I mean, you had Evil Within, there was things, not saying there wasn't, and then there was spin-off other kind of horror games like Left 4 Dead and that kind of nature. So you weren't missing out 100%. But it was kind of amazing that like a lot of the big heavy hitter ones were kind of like faded out by that point for a bit, and in Fatal Frames, I think because they've done this release, they re-released the Wii version as well. And then now with number 2, I think Fatal Frame's kind of having a comeback. And it's kind of weird that like they're putting those remasters out in weird like backwards order. I guess they got to do 3 next and 1.
Yeah.
But,
well, I mean, look at what happened. I'm seeing a direct mirror with what Konami's doing with Silent Hill right now. They testing the waters, by sending Silent Hill 2 remake out and whatnot. Now they're doing Silent Hill 1 remake. They fucking nailed it with Silent Hill F. So. Yeah, if they can continue on this path, we'll know by the time the remake comes out of Fatal Frame 2. I think that'll be the baseline of like, this is what we can expect and anticipate for Fatal Frame 6. Like whenever that comes out. So I'm very invested into this now. I look forward to it.
Yeah, same here, and it's just good that like, well, really it's the Resident Evil remakes, I think, is really what set everybody else off on like pulling these things back out.
Yep.
So once again, Resident Evil's always leading the charge.
Oh yeah.
But Fatal Frame, Maiden of Black Water, it's one of those games that like it never really goes on that much of a sale. Like I've noticed, same with the other one, the Project Lunar or whatever the heck, the Wii one.
Yep.
Those games, it's like a sale for them is like $35.
Yeah. Yep.
So, but I will say it's well worth it, I mean, I literally had to buy, I bought this one when it came out, so I had to buy it from Japan. I probably paid like $60 for it or something like that.
Yeah.
But, it was well worth it. I'm glad we finally sat down and played it. I think the story's cool. I think the gameplay's awesome. And, it is interesting. Sometimes I will say, though, it's like if you had the chance, I do think that like the Wii U version might be the way to go.
Oh, sure.
Granted, you're going to sacrifice graphic quality. Yeah, you're going to have like 720 by 30 and whatnot.
Yeah.
So who cares? Just play it on a smaller TV screen. That's all you got to do. Just don't play it on your 65-inch TV.
Yeah, exactly.
Pull out, put it on your computer monitor, and it won't look that bad.
Right.
Right. But yeah, no, I think it's still pretty darn neat, and I hope to see more Fatal Frame, but at least we got the remake coming out. We got all the old ones to dive back through again, and it makes me excited because it's been just such a long time since playing Fatal Frame, even though I always think about it. But yeah, beyond all that, you got any final thoughts and so on like that?
Buy this game. I just outright. Right now, full price Steam, $40. I think the amount of content that exists here, the amount of fun you will have with its mechanics, it's really kind of like, I mean, I'm still thinking about this story, like after the fact and whatnot. I'm doing the post-end research, and I'm probably going to continually think about this story for a while because it's very tragic. It's a very, very tragic story. Mm-hmm. It's mature in that sense. I am baffled that Nintendo allowed this, to be honest. Especially the other piece that we missed too, just real brief, is the amount of blood and gore in this game, dude. Like when a chick like physically cuts her throat and like just the blood just on the ground, crazy. But very, very thankful that we took the time to sit down and actually play this. I 100% pick this up on a sale. If you're, I think if you're a Fatal Frame fan, probably, like this would be at least interesting to compare to the rest of the series. And I very much look forward to doing that, moving forward. So great game. I think it's wonderful.
Yeah, I'm just flipping through. I just had a couple of these notes. Really are not like the most exciting for the end, but like just a couple other things that I wanted to mention, just that I wrote down. I liked also in the map that the map gave you a screenshot of each area. So when you were flipping through there trying to look for where you needed to go, like that screenshot actually helped out because you're like, okay, I can see what that room looks like. Mm-hmm. And that was just one of those small things that I thought was actually a pretty neat little touch that they put in there. And
every section on the map is named. There are certain sections of this game that require you to like you snap a photo of like a not a ghost or anything, but just like
a doorknob.
Like a cursed object or whatever, and then it shows you flashes somewhere in the level of like the next picture you got to go take. Thank God that map had very particularly. There's a hallway called like I can't remember what the hell it's called.
Hall of Souls or something.
Yeah, it's a very, very particular name, and it has to do with the slats, like in the wall or whatever, like for the window, more or less. And I spent this is in chapter 6, dude. Round and round and round and round and round. And then finally, I'm just like opening the map, and I see that feature. I'm like, oh, they name each section. Oh, there's a physical picture of that section of the map, and it's like, oh, okay, and then I figured it out. So
yeah, there we go.
Sorry to cut you off, but yeah.
Well, I'll say this: there is something to be said in like for Japanese architecture. Like I don't know what it is. It's like this must just be like something's American, but like sometimes when you think something's a door, that doesn't mean it's necessarily a door. That could just be a design of the wall. That could be a window. That could it could be so many things.
Everything's a fucking slider in Japan.
Yeah,
it's like what?
Everything that looks the same in a sense, So you have that, which sometimes makes running around those buildings a little bit tough. One thing that I will say was kind of this was just maybe my controller setup, and for some reason on the Switch I had one of two choices. So like it was either option A or option B, and they made the run button was the same button as like your power button for like the camera. So I don't know how many times I went to go run, especially when playing as Ren, and you accidentally click the 4-shot, because we never mentioned this, but Ren's only power up is he has this 4-shot where it blasts off 4 rounds of film, which is really good for attack. But if you blast that off thinking you're just going to run and you just wasted 4 great rounds of film, oh god, and that happened to me like a lot, because I was like, dude, why is the run button the same as that? See, there was too many weird overlapping buttons sometimes, but it wasn't as bad with like Yuri. It's like whatever. I lose my power up for a split second, but with Ren's it was like a double loss. It was like okay, there's that. Now the camera's going to take forever to recharge, and I most likely it's never on the crappy film. It's always on the good film that happens. So you do that, but there's some of the stuff I was like, oh, and the other note I did write down is I'm really thinking this story must take place like in the 2000s, like early 2000s though, because of just all the technology in it. There's nothing in this thing that suggests 2014.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Like, so I'm kind of guessing that there. I remember in the original Fatal Frame. Now, I don't know if the game necessarily takes place in the 80s, but something of like whatever the incident was, I remember took place in the 80s. I just remember that from the storytelling, and then it kind of leads on. So I don't know if it leads into like 2000 or whatnot, but I guess it makes sense if by Miku, like her age, that maybe it is the 80s. I don't know, but that might make sense. But yeah, other than that, though, I think that was all my notes that I kind of had in here and so on like that, and just
if you just in general, if you like, if you want to have the sexy waifu Ghostbuster simulator, this is a good one.
Yeah, exactly. And you do get all the cool outfits. I kind of almost wish I bought some of those outfits beforehand because there was some neat outfits.
They're rad. They are rad, dude. The gothic ones are sick, dude. They're so cool.
I like the punk rocker one that Yuri had. I thought that was really cool. This is the one. Okay, if you have the Wii U version though, you get a Zelda costume and you get a Zero Suit Samus one.
Really? Oh,
so I kid you not, I'm still kind of coming around to I think the Wii U version if you can get it. This is the downfall though. You actually can't get it anymore, I don't think, because it was a digital only in the US. So your only way to get it would be to use an emulation and or you have to have a Japanese Wii U, because it's not like the Switch where you can buy games from any country. It's not, it's region locked. So it's
region locked.
So yeah. I still have the demo on my Wii U.
There you go. Never delete that.
Yeah, I got the demo. So yeah, that was the only thing I could have hold on there. That's 32 gig hard drive. But yeah, check this bad boy out. It's a great game. But beyond that, you can check out all the other Silent Evil podcasts, along with Old Man Orange and Via VHS. Find those on YouTube and Spotify. Till then, I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
I am Cameron.
And we'll see you some other time.